Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our On the Offense podcast. I am your co host, John Clendenning, and I am joined by.
I'm Jeff Baum, your other co host.
Well, we come to you on January 9th is the date. And as we speak, and by the way, I say January 9th, by the time you see this, it'll be the following week. So you'll be watching this the week of the 13th, but we are recording on the 9th. And as we speak, two things are happening. One, here in Dallas, where we sit, it is snowing. It has been snowing since what, Jeff? About 7 a.m.
7 a.m. That's right. Yeah.
It's coming down hard. I am triple layered, even inside. And we don't get many of these here, but when we do, we enjoy it. So happy snow day to all here in Dallas. More important than that, the other side of the spectrum from a weather perspective is what's happening in Los Angeles right now. So I am completely unscripted here. I don't know what I'm going to say, and I might get emotional because my hometown is burning. And it is very upsetting to me, to millions of others. And I pray, all I can say is I pray for my hometown, for all of you out there that have lost homes, whose families have lost homes, who've lost power, who are still waiting to see if you're going to lose your home. I am thinking about you, and Angelino from afar. We're all thinking about you. The whole world supports you. Everyone here in Dallas is talking about it. My condolences for everything that's been lost. And please just know that I and many, many others are thinking of you. Jeff, you wanted to add something as well.
Well, I certainly echo that. I'm not from LA, but I've got a lot of friends out there, been in all the areas that are being affected. And it's tragic. So I'm thinking about that as well. And I'm also thinking about some of the other things that have happened so far this year that we ought to always keep in mind. Sometimes the start to a year can be tough, particularly for the people in New Orleans who are affected by that mass casualty event, which is just horrific. And of course, the explosion out in Las Vegas. There's just too much happening right now, and we ought to keep that in mind as we go forward. Hopefully 2025 will prove to be a much better year, and we're looking forward to bright things ahead. So, but to everyone who's affected, my thoughts go out to you.
Yeah, I mean, I know people whose homes have burned down. I know people whose childhood homes have burned down. I know people the church in which they got married burned down, whose elementary school burned down, whose mother's home has burned down. It is just beyond horrific. It's just unbelievable. And it's really hard to be watching it from afar. You feel like you want to help somehow, right? And you just feel so helpless being that far away. So to your point, Jeff, hopefully 2025 is better.
It's got to get better.
We're having a bad first inning, but hopefully, there are 8 more innings to go, right?
That's right.
So hopefully things get better. Now, having said all of that, today, as I said, January 9th is officially a day of mourning in the United States of America. And that's because former President Jimmy Carter passed away recently at the age, believe it or not, of 100. What a life this man had. And this morning, actually, was his state funeral at the National Cathedral in Washington. His body is now on its way to his home state of Georgia, where he will be buried. But speaking of Georgia, it was probably about 5 to 10 years ago. I was in Atlanta on a business trip. I had time to visit the Carter Center, his presidential center, just off of downtown Atlanta. And I went to buy his autobiography, and they had a little sign that said, if you buy his autobiography, President Carter will sign the book for you. So how often do you get a chance to get an autograph from a president of the United States? And so here it is. I don't know if you can read it with the lighting. It doesn't look like you can.
It's a little bright.
I have a bright light in my face. All it says is best wishes to Jeff Baum. No, that's you.
I
Best
don't,
wishes.
can I have it?
Oh, wait, I got the wrong book.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
Best wishes to John Clendenning, Jay Carter. So, hey, this is one of those things where I don't care what party you were in or are with. If you were the president, if you're in that club, um, you're cool to me, right?
It's a
I'll
good
take
club
your
to be
autograph
in.
all day long. And it's really, I've been thinking a lot about him since he passed away. What a great man. I can't ever imagine another presidency being more consequential after the person left the White House. And so rest in peace, President Carter. Thank you for your service. So with that, we are going to dive into the topic for the podcast, which is and when I say I mean clients first, our agency, our predictions for marketing and communications for 2025. We actually put out this list on LinkedIn and Facebook last week. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, it's already posted on those social channels. But now you have an opportunity to see us go through the list in living color, ingested with our personalities, right, Jeff? So it's going to be
I mean, that's
way
going to
more.
overwhelm you. It's going to overwhelm you.
Yeah, you're going to be so overwhelmed with personality that you're not even going to know which prediction to follow the closest. So it is that time of year again to talk about where our industry is going to go for the year. We have lots to say here. We're going to start with Mr. Baum with number 10.
Yeah, yeah. So AI's influence is going to continue to wane.
I'm sorry,
Now,
what is
that's a
that
joke,
acronym?
of course.
What's that acronym again?
Artificial intelligence?
Oh, I've never heard of that before.
Ah, there you go. Of course, that's a joke. AI and generative AI are everything right now. It's incredible. It's going to affect every aspect of our lives, and it's already affecting our industry. I mean, I go to AI all the time to check on facts. Of course, I have to check those facts afterwards, but the promise and also the danger from AI gone amok is incredible. So this is just going to continue to develop as the year goes on and as the coming years go on. But we'll get to that later. But AI is a huge influence on everything we do, our jobs, our industries, and we'll see where it goes from here. John, number 9.
No question. And yes, we will return to AI somewhere on this list, I suspect.
Yeah.
All right, number 9, DEI. And the prediction that we had on social last week said CSR/DEI/ESG will stand the test of time. But we're really focusing more on DEI here because DEI is the one of those three that is really under attack. I mean, you see headlines all the time about this company or that company pulling back on its DEI program. I understand why. We're not passing judgment here. It is a political hot potato. I get it. We get it. However, we have a different view from those who are pulling back, which is that it will stand the test of time. And here's why: because it's just good for business. Now, the cobbler has no shoes, as they say. And I choose to believe that sometimes the storytellers among us, Jeff, not us, of course, others, right? Sometimes don't do the best storytelling, and I don't believe that the story of DEI has been told adequately enough, because I don't think it's clear enough to people that it is good for business. It's not just, if you will, nice to have stuff. It is that, but it's also good for business, right? There is an organization called the Arthur W. Page Society. I think it's fair to say, Jeff, probably the most esteemed peer group for senior communications leaders globally.
Yeah, that's true.
It actually just goes as Page now, or the Page Society. Jeff and I are both former members, having both been former CCOs. They put out a study in the last month or two with quantifiable data showing not just that it's good for business, but why it's good for business. What are the things it does for business? All of which are positive. So if you tell the story, if you're a company out there and you're wondering, boy, we have this DEI program, we're not sure to what extent, even if you believe in it, we're not sure to what extent we should tell the story publicly about it. We're not sure how to position our program publicly. Our belief is that if you focus on the fact that the program is good for business, it's much harder for people to take swipes at you, many of which are going against the programs due to the current political climate, right? And so, anyway, we believe there are enough companies out there that do believe that it will stand the test of time. A great example in the news this week, Costco. Costco is putting its money where its mouth is. It's sticking with its guns, and it is sticking with its DEI program. I haven't seen the details of why. I'm going to assume that at least part of it, one would hope, right, is that they believe it's good for business. Any comments on that, Jeff?
I'd just go a step further. You know, if you're a public company, even if you're a private company, you want to drive profitability. And it turns out McKinsey, which is, of course, the think tank of think tanks, has put out almost annual studies with regard to the impact of DEI, but DEI on the bottom line. And companies that invest and have a culture with the values diversity, they have better returns on equity. Their stocks perform better, and they are more sustainable as companies. They have more creative solutions. So that's all you need to know. These
100%.
numbers are double-digit improvements over companies that don't have that level of diversity. So no matter how you look at it, it's reality, it's the bottom line, and I mean, in our minds, it's a good thing.
100%. Well said. Number 8, over to you.
Number 8, and sorry, I have to look to see what number 8 is. Okay, so the heretofore, generally speaking, quiet job of being a CMO or a CCO for a university will continue to, let's say, veer toward no longer being a quiet job. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You know, as things become more controversial, as our society becomes more divided, and the diversity of opinion is extreme with very little in the middle, you know, universities have always been the prime place where people debate and they protest and they, you know, they have their new independence as adults. And so being a CCO or a CMO at a university is no longer going to be a quiet job. There are things that are going to happen on campus. DEI is a prime example. When the Supreme Court made its decision last summer, there was criticism of some of the Ivy League university presidents of not speaking out more about it. And in the end, at least 2 of them were removed. That makes for an interesting DEI environment. I mean, I'm sorry, not DEI environment, but an environment with regard to freedom of speech on campus. And then also, if you look way back, for those of us who are gray and grizzled, think about the yeah, not you, John. Me, look at me. I'm just like a skeleton with some hair. If you look back to the Vietnam War and that whole period of time, you know, and the hippies and all the things that were back in our generation, which in my mind is the greatest generation, right, John? We're the greatest generation. All these other people are posers.
Of course.
Yes. But, you know, there were major riots on campus. There was the Kent State incident where, you know, people were killed. So unfortunately, I think we're going to see more of a return to that. And so if you're going to be working, you know, for the chancellor of a university, you got to be ready and you got to be a qualified crisis communicator. So anyway, that's my perspective. John?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add to that is here we are in January 9th, right? Graduation's in 4 months. Not sure how that happened, and it's hard to think about that when it's snowing outside. but graduation's in 4 months. So do you have a if you are a university lead, if you are a CMO and or a CCO, which at many universities is the same role,
Right.
A, do you have a crisis plan? Well, let's assume you do. If you got that job, you've got a crisis plan. When's the last time it was updated? I've seen far too many crisis plans become shelfware, even those created with the best intentions and with all of this actionable stuff in it. You better be ready. You better be ready now, because it's going to happen again in the next 3 to 4 months. Okay, should I go on with number 7?
You should go on with number 7.
Lucky number 7. Earned media will become more valuable than ever. So this is not unlike our position on DEI, which again we believe will stand the test of time. There's a lot of talk out there that media is dead. Everyone, the term is everyone is media. There's a lot of truth to that. There's also a lot of truth to the pain, the pain and suffering that legacy media is now enduring, right? In large part because everyone is media, right? With the political world in which we live being so divided, media is just under attack, right? That doesn't mean, in our view, that earned media will not retain its place as the most valuable type of media of all, right? There's paid media, code for advertising, owned media, code for thought leadership, web content, social content, whatever. Earned media is if you're a communicator out there and you somehow, somehow drive an article, you work with a reporter, the article gets written, even if the article isn't exactly the way you want it to be, which is normal, it's still earned media. It still brings the credibility that the so-called third-party endorsement of a news article brings. And let's face it, with the way the media landscape is now, we think a really good, solid piece of earned media is going to stand out even more than it did before. Let's assume this is an objective, real piece of journalism, right? Not the CRAP that wastes half our time on the internet. I'm talking about real content. If you can generate that type of real content on behalf of your company or on behalf of your client, it's going to be more valuable than ever if it's credible. And that's what we're talking about, credible information right now. So this whole notion that journalism is dead, am I allowed to cuss on our podcasts?
Do it. Yeah. Do it.
Director Caroline, what's your yeah, oh, she says great. We have a director in the background who we call Melman from the Regis and Kathy Lee days. Melman. Oh, Gelman.
Yes, I believe the answer is yes. I will bleep you if not. It's funny. I like it. Hi, everyone. Bye.
Gelman says it's okay to say bullshit. Okay. So people who say journalism is dead, bullshit. The fourth estate will die when one and only one thing happens. And that is when people no longer have a thirst for news or information, right? It's just that simple. I just don't buy this notion that journalism is dead. Jeff, anything to add?
Well, yeah, I think social networks, social media drive a lot of this.
Oh,
and
sure.
The fact is, you can be anyone and put your opinion up on social media. No one knows who you are. No one knows what your expertise is. And so is it true? Well, some people say, oh, of course it's true. Some people say it isn't true. The other danger point here, I think, is AI. AI can generate pretty much anything. They can change my face into John's face. They can replicate his voice. So you don't know if what you're seeing is true. So that's a huge thing itself. Also, there are certain people. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Just Keep going, and then I'll make my point.
Okay. Um, there are certain people who have opinions with regard to, media being fake media, media being biased, and certainly, every media outlet has some sort of bias, some sort of opinion. But we got to be diligent in making sure we understand what the real news is, and I think that's harder and harder to do. So,
You
John?
know what? You've just said the magic word. What is real news and what is not real news? Whenever people in my family oh, did you see this article? My first question is always, and it's annoying to them, but is always, what's the source? What's the source? So again, our point here on number whatever this is, number 7, is real credible media. If you are able to generate news in real credible news outlets, we think it's going to be even more important than ever going forward. With that, on to number 6.
Okay, number 6, the pressure from on high to return to the office 5 days a week will raise attrition rates. And certainly as a result of COVID, everyone got used to remote work. And for a lot of people, it's much more favorable than schlepping into the office, than spending 2 hours in your car each day to get to the office, to have a cup of coffee, to chat with your buddies and everything else. Where if you're at home, you can be working. That's productivity. You can be working at 10 o'clock at night and take a nap during the day. All it matters is you're putting out what the company needs. And with the advent of having video calls like this, we can look at each other. We know we're producing something of value. Now you be the judge of how much value it is, but there's going to be a lot of pressure there, and some companies are saying you need to return. And if you listen to the people that President-to-be Trump is putting in charge of government efficiency, you listen to Elon Musk, he wants people back in the office, and that's going to cause attrition. It's going to cause a dip in job satisfaction. And I'd also say it probably will cause a dip in productivity and quality and all those good things. So I think the best solution may be a hybrid approach where someone goes in the office maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but spends their other time at home. Remote work has a lot of value. And I think with technology and everything else we have at our fingertips right now, that's proven to be the case. John?
100%. The thing I would add is that regardless of whatever formula that your company chooses, and I tend to think that most companies are going to go the way of some sort of blend, right? Even if it's 4 days in the office, 1 day not, whatever it is, right? Even if it's mostly in the office, whatever formula you choose, we think there's two things are going to happen relative to marketing and communications. One is it's going to be more important than ever for you as a company to gauge your level of employee engagement, to understand how engaged are your employees, because the less engaged, this isn't rocket science. If you're in HR, you know what I'm about to say. The less engaged the employees are, the less productive they are, meaning they are less successful in general. And guess what? They're also more prone to bail, to quit. And what happens when a company, when an employee quits? The company now has to spend a boatload of time and a boatload of money to replace them. It's hard on companies when they lose a lot of people. So that's why we're saying, hey, regardless whatever formula you choose, be prepared. The more you force people to go back to the office, the more attrition you're probably going to face, especially from younger people. And that's just going to cost a lot of time and money. And that what that does is it also creates angst among the employees in general. So you have to understand your employee engagement. There are a lot of communications tools that you can deploy to help with that, to help increase the level of engagement, right? To deepen the relationship that your employee feels with you as your employer. The other thing that we think will accrue from this is the art and science of recruitment marketing. So there are a lot. I don't care if you're IBM or General Motors or, clients first marketing and communications, some startup, right? I mean, you have to recruit talent. You have to retain talent. And so you have to put information out in the market specifically designed to recruit people to come to your company. I would argue that that's most important if you are a company that's based in, I don't want to say the middle of nowhere, but a small town or something like that, where it might be harder to recruit people there because there's just not as much going on. And in situations like that, I have personal experience in developing content for companies that have done this in partnership with the city, the municipality in which the company is based, because it also helps the city recruit people to that company. It's a win-win, right? And so there are lots of things you can do, but there are also lots of things you should do as a company, whether you're in a small town or in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. You have to retain people, and that's where the engagement comes in. So, hey, bring people back to the office all you want. Maybe it will increase your productivity, but we're here to tell you there's another side of that coin.
I'll add just one last thing to that, John, which is,
Yeah.
for companies that have closed facilities and consolidated facilities, that's a money saver. It costs a lot to heat a building, to air condition a building, to run a cafeteria, all those different things that if you go to a
Right.
primarily remote workforce, that falls off the table. So there are some companies that have taken that approach that, okay, it's working out, our financial performance is good. We're going to close this place or we're going to downsize it. And that has economic returns, economic value.
No question. So we are now down, we're halfway done. It is now halftime of the Clients First 2025 Prediction Bowl. So what we're going to do, and we decided this in advance, is we're going to take a break at halftime. And this coming weekend is NFL Wild Card Weekend. And we are nothing if not sports fans here at Clients First, right, Jeff? So I have in front of me the list of the NFL wildcard games that are due to be played this weekend. And we're going to do a quick rat-a-tat-tat here between Jeff and I. We're going to predict who's going to win each game. We invite you, to the extent we're wrong or one of us is wrong, when you see this, to shove it back in our face with comments and make fun of us for having missed the boat on that prediction. So let's start. I don't know if I'm going in order of when the games are going to be played, although I will end with the one I know is on Monday night. First up, Green Bay, Philadelphia. I believe that game is in Philly, so it's cold either way. What do you got? Eagles, Pack.
I think there's no question that it's going to be the Eagles that wins that game. The Eagles are going to win that game. Plus the Packers have an injured quarterback who's very valuable to them.
What's his name? Love?
Yes, Jordan Love.
He's hurt?
He's hurt. Hurt his hand.
Did not know that. Is it his throwing hand?
I believe so. Now he came back in the game and he was but that would be a huge loss.
Okay.
And the Eagles also have an alumni of a place I went to school named Saquon Barkley, who's
I had a feeling you were going to bring him up. As you should. I concur completely. I think he's the best player in the NFL, Barkley. And I didn't know about the quarterback, but even if he's in the game, I got to go with the Eagles. So Eagles at home over the Packers. All right. Now we move to no. All right, we're going to go to the AFC. Denver, Buffalo, Broncos, Bills. What do you think?
I think it's no question Buffalo. I think the Bills have too much talent.
They're at home as well.
Yeah, I think it's no question Buffalo. They've got a great back. They've got a great overall mix of players.
Another MVP candidate in the quarterback, Josh Allen. Yeah, they're at home, and so I think they're honestly, I think they're going to kill them. I don't think
So
that
too.
I think Green Bay, Philadelphia will be competitive, but yes, the Eagles will win. I think the Bills will wipe the Broncos out. Not that the Broncos can't handle playing in cold weather; they're playing in Buffalo, but I just don't think they're quite there yet. To me, it's a huge feat for the Broncos to have reemerged as just a playoff team,
Oh, I think
right?
it's incredible.
They've already won this season, I
Mhm.
think. So,
Yeah.
let's keep moving. This one is close to your heart, Jeff. Not your Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Baltimore to play the hated Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, you may not know my background, but I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Diehard Steelers fan. I was a diehard Pirates fan, even a diehard Penguins fan. So I guess they're all P's, right?
They
Pirates,
are.
Penguins. Oh, Steelers, not a P, of course. Anyway, okay, this one's tough for me. I've always
Yeah.
been a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
Although I've seen the Ravens, and the Ravens are really, really good. But sometimes you got to go with your heart and not your mind. So what I would say to this is this is where my
I
heart
love
is,
it.
and I'm going with the Steelers, regardless of the talent levels. And I think Russell Wilson has a great game coming up.
I have been the prop king on these podcasts for the most part until that moment. You've now taken over. That was outstanding. I did not know you were going to do that. I'm going to go the other way. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Wow.
I'm going to think with my head, but I'm not. Here's why I'm going with the Ravens. I actually think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Like, I think they're for real.
They very, very much could.
And every Cowboy fan in this snowy town is mad at Jerry Jones for not signing what's his name? Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, who is now plowing through defenses in Baltimore. I think they're going to the Super Bowl. All right. Having said that, I hope the Steelers win. No doubt about it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. We've got three more. This is a really weird playoff game to me. The Washington Commanders traveling to Tampa to play the Bucks. It's a weird playoff game.
That is a weird playoff game. And I really have mixed emotions on that because I lived in DC for a long time and actually became somewhat of a Redskins fan when I lived there. Now it's strange because I'm in Dallas where Cowboys and Redskins or now Commanders have always hated each other. So that's interesting too. But I'm also a fan of like Baker Mayfield. I like a scrappy guy who has overcome all kinds of adversity and is fun to watch play football. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. I'm going to go with the Bucs in Tampa. Really hope that it's a good game and you've got a great mix of players there.
You know what? I'm going to go with you on that, and the only reason I'm going to do it is the Bucs are at home. I'm gonna go home field advantage. By the way, I'm looking at my screen right now. I am on ESPN.com. When I say who's at home, I'm just going by the seedings. I'm assuming the higher seeded team is the home team. Right. So I'm going to go with Tampa based on home field. We've got two more. The Chargers. I almost said San Diego Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers and the Houston Texans. Also a bit of a strange playoff game. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Based on talent levels, I might have to go with the Texans, but based on karma, maybe I go with the Chargers. And we have good friends who are avid Chargers fans, live in the San Diego area, even though there are Chargers in LA now. I'm going to go with the Chargers.
So they're still Chargers fans despite what the Chargers did to them.
Yes.
Good for them. You know what? Because of what you just said, I'm going with the Chargers. I'm not a big Harbaugh fan, no USC person is, and we don't have time to get into that whole thing.
Right.
But look what he did for his alma mater last year. He knows what he's
He's a
doing.
winner wherever he goes. He's a winner.
He's a winner. I say Harbaugh goes on the road because this is in Houston and wins the game. And then we'll end up may I start on this one?
Please.
This is the final one, and I know I say final because I know this is the Monday night game. This is so cool what they've done with Wild Card Weekend. They have 2 games on, I think there's 6 games, 2 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, and then a Monday night game. They've really kind of spread out this Wild Card Weekend. I think it's brilliant. The Minnesota Vikings are traveling to Los Angeles to play the Rams. So this game, as we record here again on January 9th, there is a good chance the NFL is going to move the game to Phoenix because of the fires. And even if the fires are under control by Monday night, the air quality and all of the associated issues, they might move the game to Phoenix, which would really be unfortunate for the Rams because they'd lose their home field advantage. But other things are more important. I choose to think that whether the game's in LA or in Phoenix, the Rams are going to be entirely and utterly inspired by the fires and by what that town is going through, and they will win the game. Now, I could have assigned the same dynamic to the Chargers. I can't not think of them as the San Diego Chargers. I'm
I know
sorry.
it's hard. It's
That's
hard.
it's entirely unfair. The Rams are Los Angeles. They will be inspired by the fires, and they will upset the Minnesota Vikings.
I honestly beg to differ on this one. I think the Vikings are a team of destiny right now. And I say that because of a guy from Southern California who's never gotten his fair shake, Sam Darnold.
Fight on, Sam.
Sam Darnold has been an amazing comeback story. And I think just his emotion and his ability to lift the team will be the difference. I also think the head coach is an interesting guy. He's creative. He thinks out of the box. He's young. All those things go in their favor. And I do like the Rams, but in my mind, I think the Vikings are going to make a pretty good run.
You know what? I can never go against Sam Darnold, right? I hate the fact, even if there were no fires, I hate the fact that Sam's going against the Rams. I hate that. Sam's going against LA. I don't like that. I guess that's what happens when you go into the pros and you get drafted by random teams, or in his case, traded and moved around or whatever. But all right, so we agree on some points, we differ on others. I have no idea how that all comes out in the wash. If you see some stuff here that ends up looking bad come Monday, Tuesday, let us know. That's about the point at which this thing will be out in internet land. And I believe we will still have one more podcast to go before the Super Bowl. So we will be able to predict the Super Bowl winner. So with that, let's go back to our predictions for 2025. And I believe I'm up next with number 5. Number 5, a true competitor to TikTok will at least begin to emerge. All right. I am an adjunct professor on the side. I give quizzes by profession. I can't help it. Mr. Baum, you are on the hook here. Give it your best shot. The monthly average user base for TikTok. How many people on average per month are using TikTok? What a wild guess.
Wild guess, 150 million people.
1.6 billion with a B.
Whoa.
1.6 billion.
Whoa.
Monthly average. It's unbelievable. Gelman, our producer, is one of them. She is a TikToker, if that's a term. A lot. I feel like there's a theme here, right? The media is under attack. legacy media is under attack, DEI is under attack, TikTok's under attack as well, and maybe they deserve it. I don't know. I'm not getting in the middle of that. I'm just saying they're under attack. There is a chance that they will no longer be allowed to do business in the United States. Trump himself, who has been among the most, if not the most vocal anti-TikTok person, again, not rendering judgment on that, has recently said that they may end up staying. So who knows what's going to happen? But I think regardless of that, in other words, even if they do stay, because of the flack that they take, because of who owns them, and because of who is about to re-up at the White House, I think a competitor will emerge. The obvious candidate is Meta, but I choose to think it's going to be someone other than that. Jeff, comments?
No, I think the market itself, capitalism, you go to where the money's good. And, TikTok, even though it was originated in a communist country, I just think that model is really powerful, and all these influencers and the way folks use it. And, even the presidential campaigns use TikTok as an avenue to do some of their campaigning. So I think someone will emerge, but if I had to put my money down, I'm pretty cheap as a person, if you know me. I would bet that TikTok is still around in one form or another at the end of the year. Now, maybe with a US owner, maybe with some sort of strange restrictions on it, maybe with all US data being kept here. But I would bet it's still around.
I think that's a good call. I mean, it's made its name on short form video, and clearly people like that, right? So
They do.
It's going to stick around in some form, or somebody else will try to take part of the pie. I agree with you on that. All right, let's keep it moving. Number 4.
Number 4. And I guess I'm number 4, aren't I?
You are number 4.
Let me get back to my little cheat sheet here.
You are number 4. You are
right?
number 1 in our hearts, but you're number 4 on the list.
Oh, I'm number 1 in my own heart. Okay. Paid media will make its biggest impact via empathy-driven stories. I kind of believe this. I think that it makes sense. We live in such a mean, aggressive world right now, particularly the political world. Everyone's either right or they're wrong, but no one's, you're somewhat right. I'd do this or whatever else. There's nothing, everything's black, white, no gray. We need gray. And one of the ways to drive that is to, inject some emotion into paid media. And this is media that your company's producing, you're producing. This could be blogs, this could be anything, but I think you need to make an emotional connection. And it's all based on basic morality. I don't think that the way we're seeing people portrayed in the media or politically is, I don't know. I get very frustrated with it. And I remember I used to work on Capitol Hill a long time ago. And the atmosphere there was so different. You were talking, the mid to late 1980s. And Democrats and Republicans, they'd hang out together. They would compromise on legislation. You could be a friend of someone in the other party. Today, that's really no longer the case. It's not as if, Tip O'Neill at the end of the week is going to schlep on down to the White House to have a toast and some Irish whiskey with Ronald Reagan. But that was the case. They became after-hours buddies. And we really don't see that. And I think the best way to get there again is to humanize everybody. And I think empathy, where you can actually, relate to someone's situation or show some sympathy, but share those feelings. That's not there today, and I think it needs to be. John?
I mean, I could not possibly agree more with that. My first editor, some of you know I started my career as a journalist. My first editor told me, one of the very first things he ever told me, I never forgot it, people like to read about other people.
Hmm.
And he was counseling me because I was about to go cover a school board meeting, which sounds about as inhumane as possible. I mean, how boring can you get, right? How do you write a news story about a school board meeting, or, you know, you could extrapolate it about a city council meeting or whatever, and make it about people because they voted on this budget or that budget or whatever. But his point was, find a way to tell people how these votes impact them, right?
Right.
Pull out
Right.
human interest stories. People like to read about other people. I would argue that that's true with earned media. People want to see stories about other people. They want to learn more about other people. And yeah, you're right. It's paid media, but it's also owned media. It's a great opportunity to do profiles for the public on your on the most interesting employees you have. I know a lot of companies already do that as part of their internal communications program. Why not be doing it for your external communications program as well? People like to read about other people, and we're just flat out emotionally exhausted from the past several years. We really are. And here we are off to a horrible start in the first inning of 2025. People are exhausted. So yes, empathy-driven stories. Completely agree. I'll take number 3, and then I believe
Number
you're gonna
3.
you're gonna bring it home with both 2 and 1. Number 3 on our list is the democratization of thought leadership will advance. So no one disputes the correlation between the reputation of a company's CEO and that of the company as a whole. You have to guard. I mean, when I was a CMO and a CCO, I guarded the reputation of the CEO like I would that of my own family. It was very personal to me. Um, Everything that person did, I cared about. Everything. Um, Having said, and so it follows that there's no better person to lean on when you build the reputation of your company, thought leadership, and other things you put out there on that person's behalf. But I think the point of number 3 here is it doesn't have to stop with that. Research studies show, I've actually read about this recently, that thought leadership in the name of people a step below the CEO and even a step or 2 below that can sometimes get higher levels of engagement than do the thought leadership pieces in the name of the CEO. And why is that? It's because people don't just care about the CEO, they care about other people as well. But it also comes down to the content itself. It comes down to the subject matter. Do you care about the subject matter that this person has written about? Are you reading about that subject matter on a channel that you trust? So part of it is the content, part of it is where you get it placed, where you post it, et cetera, et cetera. The point is, don't just stop with the CEO. There's so much more there. Comments on that?
Yeah, no, back in our EDS days that where John and I met, um, we had a futurist who was on our team,
Yeah.
and our clients loved to hear him. Um, he was incredibly insightful, usually pretty accurate about where the world was going. And when you
Yeah.
work for a technology services company, they expect you to have somebody on your team who can predict the future and future technologies. And we had that, and we got a lot of use out of him in the media and in public forums. And, you know, if you have that, pump it up, pump it up. There are people in your company or in your organization who may have a field of expertise that no one has even thought of. So, hey,
Well,
I agree.
yeah. You know what? We had a guy like that at Unisys. He was unbelievable. He was an absolute subject matter expert, a SME. He was a good writer, and he was just game to play the game, if you will. He
Mhm.
was willing
Yeah.
and able. He was willing to spend the time on giving us ideas that we could turn into content for him, and or sometimes developing his own content. And it was just a real partnership between the communications group and him. He was in one of the business units, and as a result, we were constantly cranking out content with his name attached to it, and the engagement levels were high. He would do podcasts, he would do blogs, he would do anything. He wasn't spending all his time on it. Don't get me wrong. These people have other things to do, but I guess the point is, if you're a communicator out there, a marketer looking for somebody to focus on, find somebody who's game, who's willing to spend the time. Because what happens too often is you get executives on the phone and they're kind of like, oh, yeah, of course. Oh, great idea. We'll do that. And then maybe you get one done. And then it becomes 2-3 weeks before you get an approval. You're off track, and then the whole thing goes away, right? So you got to have an executive who is willing to spend the time. That's on the executive. It's also on the marketing and communications people up front to set the expectation. These people need to know, if you're going to say yes, we're going to be hounding you. You've got to post once a month, or people will stop paying attention, et cetera, et cetera. All right. On to Mr. Baum, who's going to do both number 2 and number 1. And then we have a surprise additional set of predictions.
Yes. So, okay. Well, we won't spoil the surprise yet.
Try to spoil the surprise.
Number 2, meet the newest Olympic power, Crisis Communications. Of course, that's a bit tongue in cheek, because crisis communications has always been one of the core needs in a public relations organization, any company. And, if you're a company, you've got to be first a good company, a good investment. You got to be a good employer, and you got to be a good neighbor. And when you have a crisis, all those things come into question. So smart companies always have a crisis plan in hand, always have a crisis team on the ready, and can always put that in place. But you know what? The days go on, things get away from you, and the last thing you're thinking of is a crisis until it's happened. So John and I have been through our fair share of crises. I used to work in the pharmaceutical and consumer products industry way back. We had people die with regard to, a new product we introduced. Now, it wasn't caused by the product itself, but we needed to pull it from the market. Clearly some of the tests didn't show things that were actually there. We had a flu vaccine that lost its effectiveness after a certain amount of time. That became a full-blown crisis with senior citizens. And during the time of 9/11 and after that, we've had what people thought was anthrax sent to our office.
Oh, yeah.
So there's always a crisis around the corner. Look at what's happened in food industry, and with McDonald's and the sliced onions, and Boar's Head, and the and also like organic carrots. The next crisis is right around the corner. So if you don't have a crisis plan, you ought to get one soon. John?
Well, and to a point I think that was raised earlier, you have to make sure it's constantly updated. Maybe constantly, but at least quarterly. You can't let the time go by. I'll add one other thing, which is many of the crises I've been involved in have been in either IT services or software. And in cases where cybersecurity was involved. And you know what that means? That means that somebody's it's one thing for a crisis to occur, a natural disaster, a product situation that wasn't foreseen, what have you. But in the case of cybersecurity, you're being attacked, or your client is being attacked. In other words, you have adversaries. We just talked about NFL playoff games. You've got somebody on the other side of the field trying to harm you, right? And so, to Jeff's point, the days goes on. The plan is over here, but guess what? The people on the other side of the field are trying to score a touchdown on you, and you don't know it until they're already in the end zone. And if you don't have an updated plan, I'm going to cuss again. You're screwed. I was going to say something else, but I didn't.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think I know the word.
You know what I mean? So you got bad people after you. You have to take this seriously. And we can pound the table all day long here. But too many companies check the box, in my opinion. They check the box. They got a plan. Okay, fine. In a pinch, where is it? Where's it
Right.
posted?
Right.
When's the last time it was updated? Is it clear steps 1, 2, 3? Who does what? Right? Who declares a crisis? Right? All of this stuff. Right? So yeah. All right. Drum roll, please. We are down to
Yes, we're down to
number
number one.
one. The number one prediction for marketing and communications for 2025.
Now, what did we say about AI?
Something. I can't remember what it was.
Well, you know what? It's so there's an old saying I heard, people don't fear change, they fear the unknown. And AI is largely unknown. You know, if machines start to think for themselves, they can do amazing things. They can get you any information that's ever been generated in the span of, I just did some research. It was like 10, 15 seconds. Imagine the power of that. But at the same time, you know, there's stuff that can be generated out there that's untrue. It has really no way of knowing whether these factoids it finds in its research that's done through machine learning or whatever else is true or not. And that can have an impact on you. It can have an impact on your workforce. What positions can you replace with AI? So it's a huge thing. And, you know, can we tell whether that's actually a movie starring Tom Cruise or is it a deep fake? Can we tell that that's not a new song being sung by the late Elvis Presley? No, it could be a deep fake. So
Good
there's
point.
nothing outside the realm of what can be impacted by artificial intelligence. And if you go back to the old movie, was it what, 2001? Is that, do I have the right one?
A Space Odyssey?
Space Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah.
You go back to that and, you know, how the computer outsmarted the humans and said, well, you know what, we can't have the right change and everything else with humans in the picture. And, you know, that's the fear, which is probably unfounded, but who knows? Who knows? So, hey, I think it's great. I love it. But at the same time, I can also see why people fear it.
No question about it. I'd say two things. One is I can't think of any function within marketing and communications that AI does not affect or cannot or should not affect. So really, it's up to you as a marketing or communications organization to decide how much or how well you're going to leverage it.
Right.
And in too many cases, and when I say how much or how well you're going to leverage it, I'm assuming you're going to do it for positive reasons, right? To help your business, but also to be honest and true with society at the same time, right? And one of the main things I've seen, even in companies where you do have the stomach to pursue it, I've seen too many situations where not enough people are on board, not enough people understand how to use it. And so you have a few early adopters, you have a few people pushing it, but you don't have any sort of institutional understanding or awareness of how to use it, right? And so, you know, then you get into, well, are we going to force certification of it? You know, mandatory stuff. I would argue that companies should consider that. Why would you not? You're leaving money on the table, right? And so I guess our counsel would be to, if you're going to do it, A, you should do it. B, if you're going to do it, A, do it right. But find a way to ensure that more people than not are going to actually be leveraging it instead of, you know, 2 or 3 people in the department, and they're the ones who talk about it all the time, and everybody else kind of nods their head, but kind of says, I don't know how the hell that stuff works, right? So anyway, that is number one. It started and ended with AI, which I suppose puts us on par with a lot of other people making predictions, but hopefully along the way, you found or heard some stuff here that is compelling. And of course, we are willing and able to help you with any of it. Now, much more important and entertaining than any of that is our next set of predictions. We are almost done here. We're ending with a bang on purpose. So very tough day for me and for countless others with what's happening in Los Angeles. National Day of Mourning with the state funeral of President Carter. But despite all of that, we do have something happening tonight and tomorrow night, which are the college football playoff semifinals. So tonight is the Orange Bowl in Miami between Notre Dame and Penn State. And then tomorrow night here in snowy Dallas, by the way, the people who run the Cotton Bowl might be a little bit nervous with people not being able to get around tomorrow, right?
I would think so. I think they'll get those roads cleared, though.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see. But tomorrow night is the Cotton Bowl here in Dallas between Ohio State and Texas A&M. But you didn't catch that. It's
What?
Texas, not Texas. I was joking.
Oh, Texas. Yeah, the Longhorns. Yeah.
Ohio,
not A&M.
Ohio State and Texas. So we're going to start with that. We're going to start with the Cotton Bowl here tomorrow night. Ohio State, Texas. Jeff, what's your call?
My call is Ohio State. Being from a university where Ohio State regularly burns you, and I just can't believe that they're going to take the night off. When all things are equal, they're a really, really consistent, tough football program. So as much as it hurts me, I have to go with Ohio State.
I can't disagree. I mean, these are amazing teams with amazing coaches. Sark used to be our coach at SC. He knows, and both the head coach and an assistant for many years, and we know what he can do. You got a great team there, and the other thing is it's essentially a home game for UT if you think about it in Dallas.
Oh yeah, lots of Longhorn fans,
right? But I just think Ohio State has too much. I mean, I along with everybody else lost faith in them when they face planted against Michigan. But my goodness, what they've done since then is unbelievable. What they did to Oregon, 34-0 in the second quarter,
was crazy,
unbelievable. So it's just hard not to pick Ohio State. Yes. All right, that is the Cotton Bowl. Now we move for the coup de grace, the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, where I assume it is much warmer than it is here. Notre Dame, Penn State. I am going to start here because Jeff is going to finish us off here. It is, you just said it, hard for a Penn State guy to predict for Ohio State. It is very hard for an SC guy to predict success or to wish success for Notre Dame. I'm not necessarily wishing success for them, but I'm predicting success for them. I just think Notre Dame is really good. I don't see any weaknesses. We played a tough game against them in the last regular season game. I mean, that was a tight game late in the fourth quarter, but I just think they're really, really solid across the board. I love Marcus Freeman. How do you not root for a guy like that, right?
I agree on that.
So as much as it pains me a little bit, I am all in on the Fighting Irish tomorrow night. With that, I think we're going to end with Jeff and then just go. Oh, no, we do have to say one thing about hashtags after your close here. But now we're going to go to Mr. Baum for the highlight of the show. Who's going to win the Orange Bowl tomorrow night?
Yeah, John, I beg to differ with your prediction on that. As a long-term Penn State fan, as a Penn State graduate, as a Penn State fanatic, I've seen the highs and the lows. We had some lows this year against Oregon and Ohio State. Those were lows. But I see a great team. When it has the right attitude, they can beat anyone. So, John, to take a phrase out of the Lee Corso playbook, not so fast. And I
have to hold a pencil when you say
that. Yeah, with your one hand. I have to reveal myself here. You'll see this.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's undressing.
I'm undressing, so you'll see that. You'll see this. This will be more disturbing to
Dear
you.
God. What the heck?
There we go.
Oh, thank God you're putting it on as opposed to
Yeah,
take
I'm putting it
something else.
on. Ah, here we are.
Look at
This
that
was
bad
remember
boy.
the great Michael Robinson when it was our quarterback way back.
That is sweet.
Finally. Don't say I'm not well outfitted here.
Oh, dear God. What is he doing?
Here we go. Now we're going to see if this still fits. I doubt it would. My head's gotten considerably larger. Ah,
It fit you very well when you were on the team playing for Joe Pa.
ah,
Oh, that looks painful. Ow.
Okay, this is as close as I can get.
Can you
But
breathe?
you get the idea. We are Penn State. Okay, let me get this thing off my head. Ah, okay.
Oh, look at the face. Okay. Wow. That, you know what? I changed my vote. I am choosing Penn State. I can't go against that. And who wants to root for Notre Dame anyway, right? So I say we are, and you say
Penn State.
please follow us on our social channels. Again, this should be live sometime the week of the 13th, sometime around midweek. We'll have more football predictions in our next podcast in a couple of weeks. We hope you've enjoyed our predictions. We invite you to share your comments on our social channels. And if you do, and if you actually want to pose questions, we would be more than happy to address them on our next podcast. So thank you for listening. And again, my heart is in Los Angeles today. Hang in there, everybody. Love to all of you from your fellow Angelino from snowy Dallas. Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Have a great new year.